thank you very much for having us. I'm Thibault Tallieu. I'm the marketing director of a company called EODev, and we are among the world specialists in the design and conception and industrialization of hydrogen fuel cell power generators. So our main product is called GEH2. It's a hydrogen fuel cell power generator. So the aim of this kind of machine is to replace diesel or gas gensets wherever they are being used around the world. So there's many different types of application. The way it works is that you have a fuel cell inside that is going to transform hydrogen plus the oxygen naturally in the air into electricity. And in this process, you have absolutely no greenhouse gases emissions, so no CO2, but also you have no pollutants. So this means no NOx, no SOx, no fine particles. And the only byproduct that you have on top of electricity is water and heat. And this heat and this water, you can even use them to do what we call combined heat and power. EODev, it stands for Energy Observer Developments. So before being a company, it was a project called Energy Observer. Energy Observer is the name of the first self-sufficient vessel sailing around the world, only using renewable energy. So you have, they use the wind, you have solar panels. And what is so particular about the boat is that all the extra energy produced by the solar panels is transformed on the boat into hydrogen. So this is one of the cleanest ways to produce hydrogen. It's called the electrolysis. So you are going to use electricity, ideally from renewable, so it can be from wind turbines or solar panels mostly. And you are going to split the H2O between H2 hydrogen and O2 oxygen. And then you can compress and store those two gases to use them later. And that's what we did on the boat. And when we have less renewable, less wind or less sun to move the boat or to run the onboard appliances, you turn back this hydrogen into electricity through a fuel cell. So basically you are going to use this hydrogen plus the oxygen and transform it back into electricity. And that's how you close the loop completely in a completely sustainable way. And so we took this boat around the world. It's still sailing at the moment. It's in Langkawi in Malaysia as we speak. It's going then to India, South Africa, Brazil, and going back to France for the Olympics in 2024. And based on the experience, we thought that we need to go a step further. And the step further was, well, having our own company, creating our own product and put them on the market. Because all the people we met during this around the world tour, whether it's industrials, politicians, opinion leaders, we felt like things were not going fast enough. So we said, okay, let's do it ourselves. And that's how Energy Observer Developments, which we rebranded EODev, started. So there is many different applications. These are all the applications for which we are using diesel gensets or gas gensets at the moment. There is two main families. The first one is what we call prime power. So it's for all off-grid or peak shaving power production. So the markets include, of course, the cinema industry. I think we'll come back to that, but also the construction sites, EV charging. We're having a lot of this at the moment because we are having more and more EV on the road for last mile delivery, and very often the grid is not dimensioned for these new uses. So you need to have generators to charge the cars. Also a lot on the event industry. And then there is the second big family is backup power. So that's something we're not really familiar with in France, but I know that in the US and Canada, it's much more common. So the idea is to have a generator in case of grid failure that will take the load and allow for continuous power supply. So it can be used, of course, for data centers. We are having more and more of this, hospitals, government sites, banks, but also residential applications. The GEH2 generator is composed of three main elements. So we have the fuel cell, we have a battery, and then we have a power converter. So the fuel cell is really the core of the system. So it will transform the hydrogen and the oxygen into electricity in DC current. Then we're sending it to a battery. This battery, it will allow us several things. First one is that it will allow us to do instant start. If we're in backup mode for a hospital, for instance, or a data center, you want to have electricity instantly. And it will also allow us to reach higher peak powers, for instance, for an event or a broadcast. And it will really be a buffer between the fuel cell and the electricity output. And then we have the DC-AC, because for all these applications, we use usually AC power, apart from EV charging. So we'll have this DC-AC transforming the electricity from continuous to alternative power. And then you have all the classic power outlets on which you can plug whatever you need. The good thing is that we are having a big interest for this new solution. It's really a new mindset on the market, because we have to understand that until now we were just burning diesel to produce electricity for these applications, and now we have a completely new technology. So it's not an engine. We're not burning hydrogen. There is no moving parts. It's really an electrochemical reaction, completely clean. And all the people we meet on the market, they know at some point all their diesel and gas gensets will be replaced by this kind of technology. But still, there's still some pain points at the moment. I can name a few. The first one, but it's getting much better, is the availability of hydrogen, because we need hydrogen to fuel these generators. And we need renewable hydrogen. So for instance, in France, we have more and more production. I know in the US and Canada, there's many big projects. And that's a bit the same around the world. So in 2021, 2022, we were sometimes a bit struggling to find renewable hydrogen. But from next year and the years after, we have many big production plants being built, whether it's in Middle East, in Europe, in Australia, in North America. And it will get much easier to have renewable hydrogen. Maybe we'll just say a few words about how it can be produced, because hydrogen, it's the smallest element. It's also the most abundant in the universe, but it's very rare to find it on its own in a natural way. So you have to take it from something else. Up until now, it was produced a lot from methane. So methane in chemistry, it's CH4, so it's carbon and hydrogen. So when you produce hydrogen through methane, you also produce CO2, which is not really good. And you produce like 10 kilos of CO2 for 1 kilo of hydrogen. So that's definitely not the way you want to go. That's what we've been calling the gray hydrogen. Then you have the blue. The blue hydrogen is the same process that we call steam methane reforming. But on top of this, you have the carbon capture and sequestration. And this already allows you to reduce the amount of CO2 emitted by something like 70%, which is really good. That's the blue hydrogen. We are finding a lot of this. And then you have the green, so-called green hydrogen. And this green hydrogen, it has to be from renewable. So that's what I explained for the boat. You can take water, so H2O, and you split H2 and O2 thanks to an electrical current coming from renewable energy, whether it's solar panels or wind turbines. And all the very good news is that all the big infrastructure production projects for the years to come will be renewable hydrogen. The second pain point, which is related to the first one, is the price of this hydrogen. That's also a good news, and it's not so far down the road, because we are seeing prices dropping at the moment. At the same time, we are seeing the price of diesel and gas soaring, and this makes our solutions more and more economically viable. I mean, they already are if you take a certain amount of time, but as those pricing are evolving in the future, it's really making the value proposal more and more relevant. So the third pain point is on the regulation side. Hydrogen is very different to other gases because it's very light. It's 7 times lighter than the air. So when it leaks, it's just going up. It's not going to stay down like many other gases. And we really lack hydrogen dedicated regulations, whether it's on land or at sea. And that's why we are pushing a lot, institutionals and politics. We are spending a lot of time on this, a lot of education with them to explain them how it works, because obviously the ones who have the knowledge today on this are mostly private companies. And we need those regulations to evolve and to be dedicated to help all the people who want to move to hydrogen to do it more easily. So EODev, we are still a small French company, but it's growing very, very rapidly. We started the company 3 years ago. I think that 2 years ago we were 15, today we're 70. Next year we'll be over 100, so it's growing fast. We began by serving our local markets, so which is France. And from the beginning of the year, we started to go global. And the big markets that we're identifying at the moment is obviously North America. So US and Canada, we are starting to have pretty big sales and very interesting projects there. Europe, of course, mostly Western, Northern Europe, but also Australia. They have big plans for the production of green hydrogen and to really use hydrogen as a major part of their energy transition, and also the Middle East. Mostly Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. So the market is evolving very quickly, and every year you have a new state of the art, and it's going fast, which is a good news. What we are seeing is the development of more and more powerful system. So the one we've been using, for instance, with Netflix is 100 kVA. So for now, if we want more power, we put several generators together. But in the next years, we are going to introduce containerized solutions with almost, or in sometimes over a megawatt. So it opens a larger variety of markets. So for instance, you can go to backup power for data centers, for instance, or very, very large events. So that's one point. And the other one is how you store the hydrogen, because the hydrogen is so small and so light that you have to compress it a lot, and it still takes quite some space. So today what we use is usually at 200 bars or 350 bars, but we are already developing solutions at 500 bars, 700 bars, and this will allow the customers to have much more in the same packaging. And even further down the road, there will be other ways to store the hydrogen, because today we use it as a gas, but for instance, we are working on large container ships that will use hydrogen in a liquid way. So for this liquid state, you need to lower the temperature at minus 252 degrees. So it's a different way to handle it, but this will allow us to have a very, very big quantity of hydrogen in the tank. And also, it will be an interesting development, is the development of solid state hydrogen storage, which has a lot of advantages. So we are looking at this, and of course, when it will be more mature, that's something we'd like to offer to our customers. As a last word, I think I would remember the motto of our company, which is time to shift. And that's really something that we are pushing every day to the people we meet, and to show them that hydrogen is not a technology of the future. It's not something in 10 or 20 years. It's mature, it's safe, it's economically viable, and you already have solutions on the market to decarbonize your industry and your activities.